Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video, interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist/secular/awesome community. This is episode number 165. I recorded this interview on October 14th, 2018. Thanks to Delisa for showing me awesome 2 weeks ago. I filled in last week's gap with an ode to Reason Con. I will never love like I loved you, Reason Con. That's because my liver couldn't tolerate that kind of love. This week, I bring on Nikki and Brent of Unapologetix. They are millennials, but I forgot to blame them for the demise of the Olive Garden or some shit. Their bi-weekly show combines atheism, humanism, and nerd into one quite tasty smoothie of content. I asked about how they met, how they transitioned to not religious together, and there's a setup with no punchline. Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast, Nikki and Brent, a.k.a. Unapologetix.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
How's it going? We're recording in a weird time for me. I usually record weeknights, so a Sunday at noon. I mean, it is NFL football Sunday, so of course, we have the beverage.
We still have an hour.
Got 1 hour, and then you can go right from this to that. So.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Kickoff's at 1. I remember that much.
It's a nice transition. So, do you have a special beverage for the show?
Starting out, I guess, with my dollar drink. It's $1, and it's Crazy Stallion.
Yes.
And I think it's just 6 points alcohol, which
not bad.
It's all right.
But he has a variety he's working with over here.
I got
he also has Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's.
Their
stuff.
IPA, which is actually really good.
Yes, very good. And then I got the lagers too
From Trader Joe's as well.
Same. Yeah.
Lovely, cheap, wonderful beer.
Trader Joe's does like major labels. They just slap theirs on, and it's like okay, and you know.
Oh, that's why it's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, they have a. It's like a winter vintage ale, and it's from Unibrow, and it's a weird name, but they're out of Montreal. But it's pretty good. I used to get that every year.
Yeah,
but this is a bourbon barrel aged Scottish ale from Founders called Backwoods Bastard. Don't know why. Just whatever's in the fridge. Anyway.
Oh, that's an all-around great beer. Great name. Sounds delicious. I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
So we can start with, these aren't necessarily, I sometimes do out of context quotes from my guests, sometimes in context. I guess we can decide whether they're in or not. But we'll start with a couple from Nikki. Okay. First, fuck Susan Collins. Yeah. By the way, we curse in this show. Well, sometimes. It's up to you. And the other one, he's a fucking drunk person. He's a fucking drunk. Yes. You're not talking about the new Marvel movie there. Anyway. And from Brent, white people love peanut butter. I don't know where that came from, but that was beautiful.
Yeah, because George Washington Carver.
We have this theory that pretty much Black History Month is going to disappear, but the one person that will remain will be George Washington Carver. Because he's like the one black guy that's made just such a giant gift to white people. Like, white people love peanut butter.
They do. Put it in their candy.
Well, can it be like early rock and roll where like the black artist would record the song and the white artist would cover it and it'd become famous? So they could just find something, or just say he's white. I mean, I shouldn't be giving them any ideas because they
can replace him with President Carter.
Yeah,
he's a peanut farmer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Peanut guy. You're right.
You're right. Wow, that's terrible.
Wow, he could just be replaced. Really.
We have no hope. We have no hope.
That'd be not a good. Actually, that might be a pretty good name for a podcast. We have no hope.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
That was a backup choice for you.
Yeah, because we sometimes leave with no hope whatsoever.
Yeah, most of them. I mean, right now especially. I mean, just with everything that's going on lately, it's just fucking disaster. Especially if you're non-religious, it's a disaster. Right now. If you're religious, you're like celebrating every day. You know? Yeah. You're like,
well, I mean, if you're Christian,
yeah, that's
pretty much all the other religions are not celebrating.
Like, we got a task force now. This is fucking awesome, guys.
Yeah, they do. I forgot about that. Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's the theory, like in debates, I think it's called the Gish Gallop, where one person just throws so much at the opponent that you can't take all of their arguments down. Right. And that's where we are with Scandal. But we're not talking about politics. We're talking about you. It's about your show. So Unapologetix, and we'll feel free to spell it for you, and you'll get all the links in the show notes and all that. But what made you decide, because it is not a small effort to do a podcast, to go, oh yeah, let's do a show. Let's talk about our feelings.
Right?
It's sort of public.
Yeah, I had it was because podcasting was so influential, I guess, for me. Like Nikki had been listening to him, and I told her like how music was just starting to get kind of boring because I was like, I just was listening to the same songs, over again. It's like 90s punk rock, and I, it just started to get boring. And she was like, just check out a podcast, and I was like, I've never done that before, so I just listened to a couple, and I was like, I didn't really like it until I found the God Awful Movies one, and then I was just like hooked, and it was the episode 100, so it was almost, it's got to be over a year now, right?
Yeah.
I think, but so I did that.
By now, yeah, they
right, it's like 136 or something. No, it's more than that. I don't know. It's over a year. It's about a little over a year.
I'll take your word for it.
Right, yeah. So I did that, and then I just loved it because I had to watch all those movies as a kid. I wasn't allowed to watch fucking cool movies. I had to watch the cheap Christian knockoffs, which all seemed to be the exact same movie, but they didn't even know.
It's quite a change. Like, I got one of those Amazon Fire Sticks, and they have like the movies that are available, and then like there's 3 movies with Kevin Sorbo in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's like all those PureFlix movies that have budgets. Like, I know the stuff that I think Seth Andrews talked about, like a trilogy in the 70s that was like about the rapture and like how poorly made those were, and now they're almost there.
They're
close in quality level, and they have serious like stars. Like I know Jennifer Garner was in one, and
that's right.
They get like one well-known actor in all of those.
Yeah, it's one person that's like sort of like he's like not the well-known actor in any other movie, but he's like the side character in like secular movies, but he's the main character in this one, and then everybody else you have no fucking idea who.
Or like Dean Cain. Dean Cain is like a big one now.
Oh yeah,
in a lot of these.
Was it the first God's Not Dead? Yeah, it's strange. It's almost like Trump scandals. Like it doesn't matter how bad those movies are; they just keep going. Like even the reviewers from like God's Not Dead 3 were like, "Yeah, I don't know what they were doing here, but it whatever." Still made probably like $20 million.
Glad it exists.
I
know.
I just loved it because I was just like, oh, good, they're making fun of it because I knew they were terrible back when I watched. I knew it was bad when I was a Christian. We all knew, But it was just funny to listen to these people cutting it down and everything. And then they started to talk about not only like why the movies were bad, but like why the ideas themselves were bad. And it just kind of like slowly and just started to think about it, because I was holding on to all of these hateful ideas and stuff, and I didn't really know why. I had no idea why I was holding on to them so long, But I just knew I couldn't fold on these certain issues. It's like the abortion, was one that was ingrained in me. And a child. I didn't even know what sex was, and I knew that abortion was bad. How the fuck does that work? But they told us about it, in camp.
It does, yeah. Whatever they sell the Overton window. I mean, like when Roe versus Wade passed, I think Catholic Church and a lot of churches were like, and that changed big time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were talking about this because it was actually originally the lobby that they had was segregation.
Yeah.
They wanted
segregation.
School segregation. Yeah. They were pro segregation, which, but then, of course, that didn't pan out. So they had to then go to abortion, I guess, and that's when the homeschooling like skyrocketed, and that was me. I was homeschooled.
And that's kind of where the show started because Brent was homeschooled and sort of the American government and civics portion was always kind of the smallest aspect of it. And then when it was taught obviously with a very specific focus.
Yeah.
So part of the show is we would start to have these conversations because I have a background in like American government and politics. And so, he would have, basic questions about the way government works or politics or something. And so we would get into these long discussions about that. And so that's kind of the show where he is kind of feeling out his new atheism and the fact that he has to let go of these years and years and years of indoctrination and sort of weeding through that through anger mostly. And I'm kind of here to sort of, I don't know, provide some of that knowledge and that like direction on how to think about things.
Yeah.
And also like me playing with my atheism and what's going on with me, and being with someone now who's an atheist. Yeah. And me never really having to think about it, just knowing that I was not religious and even anti-religious in some ways. Yeah. And so we're kind of feeling those things out together. And we're also just really like nerdy and culture whores. And so we're like, why not just spend, a couple hours on the weekend talking into a microphone about things we would talk about together anyway.
Yeah. And it's almost kind of like opening arguments. So like, it's like he doesn't know anything God, I always forget his name. I always wanted to call him Joseph Smith. But that's not it.
Thomas Smith?
Thomas Smith. Yeah, it's almost like that because Thomas doesn't know any, he's like not a law guy or whatever. And then you got Andrew Torres who does know about the law and stuff. So it's kind of them. And it's a lot like that with us, but with politics, I really know nothing. I knew nothing before a year ago. All this is fresh.
Yeah. And he's like learning in what is probably one of the most politically saturated environments we've been in a very long time. Yeah. So he's kind of learning a lot really quickly. It's really cool to watch actually, and really cool to see.
Yeah. So that's why, we just want to, and it was really neat to be able to catalog it, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of like we're going to have this forever, and so we got these episodes up on the internet. It's going to be there forever, and we can always go back and be like, oh yeah, that's when I still didn't know about this or that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of fun.
Well, what's your kind of elevator pitch for Unapologetix for someone who hasn't heard the show before? Like, what is that all about? Now that you're veterans, you've done quite a few shows now, right?
Yeah, I think we're on like 17.
I think I'd say something about we're an interracial couple.
Yeah, that's
with, very interesting, not interesting, but like different political ideas, and we're sort of just figuring it out together.
Yeah, and it would be almost like you said, like 1/3 atheism, 1/3
nerd.
With nerd, yeah,
and 1/3 humanist, yeah,
humanism, yeah, and cultural humanism.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say, because we're a mixed couple, so we focus a lot on those. We read a lot from the Root, and shit like that. There's a lot of.
Trying to get a diversity of stories in there.
Yeah, we try to do like a lot of atheists, and we have a bunch of different segments that we do with little songs in between and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun,
Yeah, and it's because Brent has a background too. He's a musician, and so grew up like being a musician, and so I've always watched him create because he does his own EPs and albums and stuff, and so I've watched him over time. That whole creative process of writing and then experimenting with the music and then getting it recorded and that process. And so I always wanted to do something creative with him, but I could not do music. Yeah. So this is like one of those things that we get to do together, have this creative process together. And it's really fun. It's really fun.
It is. Yeah.
Well, what was it like getting that first episode out? Like, was it a long process? And do you feel like now you've got it down, or is it kind of like?
Yeah, actually, this was the first episode that I have on record is actually me and another guy, and that was actually our like 8th episode. But we used a lot of other people's songs and stuff, and I was really nervous about that because other people told me, "Oh, you can't do that." So, I had to just kind of toss a lot of them. And but it was very similar, except I really didn't know anything, and I was still closer to libertarian at the time. So I kind of wrote those out. I could have took those out because I was like, politically it doesn't make sense for us anymore.
No,
because I'm not there. I'm not where I was.
I started to, because he was like, "Oh, that sounds good in theory." But I was like, let's talk a little bit about social Darwinism.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to have a conversation.
Right. And so kind of like, so the first episode really was a while ago, and I don't even know where it is or anything, but it was bad. It was very bad. It was terrible.
It was an experiment.
Yeah, it definitely took time to like get it, because I didn't even want to release that one when I did it. And then I did, and we got a little following, which is when me and Jared were doing it. We got a couple plays and people were talking to us about it and everything. But then my buddy had to leave. He moved away. So, Nikki was like, she would step in when he was out anyway. So I was like, "You just want to come on full time, And she was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And
I think really in the beginning, the biggest hurdle for us was, I think I wanted to, so I listened to, all the kind of big, backed by studio podcasts.
Right. Yeah.
Like I listened to like a lot of Slate podcasts and Vox Media podcasts, and of course, NPR, and so NPR. I had an idea of what I wanted it to sound like and what I wanted the mood to be, and I thought it was tough for me to jump in because I didn't think we could pull it off.
Right.
And we're still not there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we're still getting there.
This episode and be like, I don't think this bitch knows this is not Vox Media. No, we're not there. But I think I had to sort of let go of trying to make it perfect, because that's kind of how our relationship works on every level. Is like, I'm the type A, gotta do everything right person. Yeah. And Brent's like, could you just stop and like smell the roses for a second person, and like it'll all work out in the end. So I kind of had to get a little bit more on his wave and just be like, the point of this is to just talk through this insanity that's happening right now and have fun, not to do that. And we still work on the production value for sure. But I think it's something that I had to sort of understand that's going to come with time. That's going to come with better equipment. That's going to come with more experience. And so just chill and have a good time. And I think as soon as I kind of got to that point, then, and also to the point of realizing this was a real ass side gig. Like, this is not just like, we can just turn on the microphone and start talking and everything just is perfect. No, like there's a whole back end process, like front end and back end process to doing all of this. So once I got on board with those things, it's been so much fun since. It's been just a blast.
Mm-hmm. And we got kind of lucky too, because on like, I think it was our 5th episode, like on File Now, I got with Callie Wright, and she actually came on and I did an interview with her.
Callie rules.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. She's so cool. And and she just kind of like walked me through, like, because I was like, it's actually kind of funny because I was pretty rude. I didn't realize how big she was, and I just saw her name was Gaytheist, because it was, I was like Gaytheist Callie, I think was her name on Twitter. And so I just was like, she was showing a Star Trek shirt that she got, and I posted the link to the show. And I didn't realize, that's really rude. I didn't realize how rude that was. Yeah. And she was really sweet about it. She was like, hey, could you maybe not spam your show on my Twitter feed? And I was like, oh shit. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'll delete it. I was like, but how do you do it? How do you get out there? And then she just kind of walked me through it. And then she was like, I'll come on your show if you want and stuff. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. So we got a lot of really good advice, right? Like from the beginning. So that we
definitely take it all. We definitely please give us advice. We want to know, we want to learn. Because I think I know for me, being really good at this, like competent, being able to edit, being able to have something, a creative outlet is fun. It's important. So I'm always want to learn.
And the community aspect of it too, because I really wanted to connect with other people that that thought like this, because I don't know. I mean, all my friends were Christians, pretty much. Yeah. It was like, so I really couldn't talk with anybody, it felt like, at all anymore, because this was like such a big deal for me. It was kind of all encompassing in my life, and so it was just being able to connect with you. That's why at first, because it was the Scathing guys that I wrote them like, I don't know, a bunch of emails.
Oh my gosh. His email was pulled up one day, and I was like, in the morning, I was on the computer and it was open, and it was like on your sent page. And I was like, who are these people that you've emailed so many times?
I just had no one to talk to. I wanted to and I didn't realize at the time how famous, that they were like actually really big. Yeah. Same thing with Callie. I didn't realize how big this whole community was. I thought it was, just they would just reply immediately and maybe had 70 or 80 listeners. But that was just cool to
but yeah, we're building. We're building.
We're getting there.
You should do the Farnsworth quote.
Oh yeah, I Yeah, I think we had one that I was going to send, and I was like, but I want Nikki to be on it too, because I had done one.
Oh, that's right.
And
I remember now, yeah.
Yeah, so we got to do that. We were on Cognitive Dissonance, or I left a message at the beginning of their 402nd episode. And that was kind of funny, too, because I had remembered that I was going to I remember that it was a weekend, and that day I wanted to do it. I was like, I'm going to call, because if I don't, I'll forget, And then that night, my buddies were in town from, that I hadn't seen in a long time, and I got fucking blasted, like really blasted. And I woke up the next morning, and I went to my phone, and I saw an outgoing call to Chicago. And I was like, what?
Oh, yes. You drunk dialed Cogdis? That's great. That's good stuff right there. Something to tell the grandkids right there.
So I messaged Tom. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry about the sloppy message. I know you're not going to play it, but don't worry. I'm sorry about that. Sorry, kind of thing. And they played it anyway, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Awesome.
I was slurring a bit, and I was really excited, but it wasn't as bad as I thought, So that was cool.
Yeah, that's one of those podcasting milestones, like if someone name drops you, or you get to send a phone call, and it's a big deal. Now, I've done a few interviews where I've had podcasters who are couples. Let's see, we're Barroom Atheist, No Religion Required, sadly not around anymore. Scenic City Skeptics, you two. So, can we do the meet cute? How did you two get together?
The internet, all millennials.
Oh no, dangerous internet.
Yeah.
Yes, the dangerous internet. We met at the internet. I was one of the only black girls that didn't have. I only want to date black guys on my profile.
It was every person was in big bold letters, looking for black man.
Only.
Fuck. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted a nerdy guy, and so he messaged me, and we just started texting for 2 months.
Yeah, about 2 months.
And then we met after 2 months, and it was it was the weirdest thing. It was we've known each other forever.
Yeah, it was
from the beginning.
It was that was amazing. It was just we fell right into it, and we both we just realized the more we spent time together and did things together, how much we really enjoyed what each other enjoys doing together. So it's really great.
My only issue was, of course, you were a crazy Christian.
Yeah, I was at first.
Which I ignored, because I was well, he doesn't go to church, and he's not living like a crazy Christian. He just has really weird, crazy Christian views. So
yeah,
we'll work on this, and we'll move forward, because we just
how soon does that come out, on a early date? Well, I guess since you were texting for all, you probably knew that before you actually met, right?
It did. No,
You're right.
Mostly in the texting, nothing Christian came up, and I don't understand why. I have no idea. I think politics was like relatively calm at that time, maybe, it just wasn't a big, because this was 3 years ago. This was over 3 years ago. So I think our very first date, he started talking about, are you into like conspiracies at all? And I was like, no.
I used to love
No, I'm not. I'm really not. And of course, he started talking about conspiracies, and I was like, "Oh, that's a black mark right there." But we had all this other stuff we were talking about. We were just like jamming all night. And so over time, I started to see that, like, okay, this person is like legit, like homeschooled, all his family is Christian. His like parts of his family even work for churches, like big churches, and that's their whole livelihood. And and then like this is a big deal. Like that is just a giant part of your life. Yeah. And then the more I started peeling back, it was clear that you didn't want to hurt anybody. You hated the idea of hurting people, but it's just somehow like that way of growing up where you're indoctrinated by the Christian church, especially the like new age evangelical, no denomination, kind of churches. And the sort of, and in the homeschooling, when you combine those things and the Fox News and the Alex Jones, and you put all of those things together, so quickly you lose, like there's a disconnect where they have their beliefs, but they personally would never want to hurt anybody, but can't seem to connect the dots that like by believing this stuff, you are hurting people.
Yeah, by lobbying, by voting in ways that would hurt people. That's damaging.
Yeah, and you were purposely kept from as much diversity as possible. Like whenever it was clear that anyone you were around as a child wasn't an evangelical Christian, your family kind of just yanked you out really quickly. Yeah. So it was so clear that all of these beliefs were there and festering because, we live in St. Pete, Florida, which is a pretty, diverse city for Florida. But definitely. It's very easy to...
I like how you said for Florida. That's a good one.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to remember where you are, right?
Exactly.
You'll be underwater in 3 years. It's okay.
Born and raised, 5-generation Floridian here, and it is what it is. So hard to explain. But knowing that what you really needed wasn't necessarily to be cut off because you had this upbringing, because you were as much a victim of it as you were someone who was now perpetuating it.
Right.
So what I was trying to do, and not by any, I wasn't Project Change Brent into a progressive atheist. That's not what happened. Was just challenging you on well, do you know anybody like that? Do you understand what it must feel like to feel this way and have people telling you this? And just trying to bring the humanity, because that's what's stripped from all of our groups, is just you strip the humanity and then you can just believe anything. It's
black and white, and these people are causing their own problems, and that's their fault and everything. That was kind of the mentality you have.
Yeah.
And you're better because they caused their problems, and we're better than that. Kind of thing.
Exactly.
It was terrible, but and so she started showing me different different situations that you don't even think about.
No.
And especially if you're a white, straight, cisgendered man. You're not. These are just situations that you didn't even oh man, I didn't even know that would be a problem. Weird. But so it was it just was enlightening in that regard. And then I became an atheist, and you weren't even an atheist.
No.
Then. You wouldn't even identify that way.
No.
She was progressive. But because that was the first thing once I started listening to those shows, and especially I started with the God awful movies, and then I listened to Scathing Atheist, which gave a lot of information about basically how destructive religion is on society. And so I started hearing all that. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get out of this. There's no reason for me to be holding on to this anymore. Yeah. Really, I was already slipping away. I could tell that things were not adding up in the Bible that I would read, because I still was reading it, but just not very often, not as often as I was when I was super Christian.
Well, I think it was hard for you to let go, to be honest. I mean, because
my whole life,
that's the whole thing, right? For me, part of the reason I never identified as an atheist was because the Black cultural religion is so deep in you. And being an atheist, deciding to be an atheist as someone who's grown up in Baptist churches and has so many family members who are, super members, and also the conflict, because I can remember so many positive memories, so many, the funerals where the pastor went above and beyond to eulogize your family member in such a touching way, or the way that the choir sounded that one Sunday when you were already struggling. And, just those kinds of memories that have so much texture, it's hard to let that go, which it doesn't mean I have to as an atheist, but I think that's part of the reason I never kind of went there, because I wanted to believe in my mind that no, Black religion is so benign and there's nothing wrong with it and it's okay and it should be allowed to exist. And, now I'm starting to grapple a little bit more with no, it isn't actually. And that's why I don't go to church, and sort of wrestle with that. Yeah. Those kind of big questions.
Right. And culturally, like you said, it's hard. That's a lot harder for Black people to be, come out as a Christian, or as an atheist Christian.
Yeah.
As an atheist, because they're so Christian.
Well, also, you can't deny the power of it. Part of the reason we are where we are in civil rights is because of because of the churches, because they were such big opportunities for organization and to build power in a community that could not be touched by white supremacy.
Right.
And it's hard to. So when you say I'm an atheist and I'm Black, it's are you somehow denying the strength and the power of that, and how you cannot deny that you have to almost be thankful for it because you exist because of it. You know what I mean? In the current capacity of freedom anyway, that we have in this country. So it's fucking confusing.
There's a lot to get to there.
Yeah.
And it's like you can understand the aspect of community. Community is really, that's the one thing I wish we had more as atheists, I wish
as just humans.
Yeah, in general, exactly.
Because the problem is we can join a church tomorrow, but it still won't feel like community. No, it will still feel like a relationship built on a predication of a belief in things that you don't even believe in. And it's not real, because the second you actually hit hard times, the second you actually start to question things inconveniently, you realize how quickly that community sort of draws rank and you're out of it.
Right.
So a real community that exists that just like celebrates humanity instead of idolatry,
and doesn't use like a book of rules to say that they get to stick their nose into what your life, you know what I mean, and tell you, oh yeah, you shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to keep track of you. I'm going to call you and see if you are doing it. Mine was masturbation. I had a daily masturbation call where my pastor was checking on me.
That sounds like something else. Like, were you calling a 1-800 number or something? And is there a big bill at the end of the month? Oh, it's a different thing. Okay, gotcha.
They don't hear the irony in this at all.
Don't listen to Ted Cruz. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, and he would tell me too. He'd be like, "Yeah, I did it today too, man. I know. I did it too."
Not to circle back, but those Christian movies, I think that's the reason why they'll never be as good as like Hollywood movies, because they literally cannot tell when they get corny.
Right.
Like they can't tell when they walk down that corny road. And that's the biggest issue with those movies. It's like they're so
and they try to live in a world where there's just like one version of Christianity. And that's not the case. Kind of like, as we're learning, as you'll be learning as you travel further down the atheist path, there are a bunch of different types of atheists. Hopefully, I don't know if you have Sunday Assembly where you are, and if maybe you have a Black non-believers local group. I had to have my t-shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that. We gotta search. Got some Googling to do.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's out of Atlanta, but I know they're in other cities. It might be in Orlando. I'm not sure, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's tough because the Black atheist experience, as far as last couple months, I've had some interviews. It's like, it's almost like removing an organ to get out. It's like, no, you can't, because this is part of who you are. Where if you're a white dude, it's like, I can be anything. You guys can't be anything because it's fine, but it's like, totally different.
It's like, imagine Black Panther leaving Wakanda permanently. That's what it's like, because it's like leaving your source of power permanently. Because I cannot tell you how often, like, my family, like, something bad would happen to my family, whether it be like domestic or financial or whatever, but we just went through a hard time, and how much just going to church on Sunday, like that whole ritual of your mom waking you up early and her making her bomb ass cheese grits, and then going to church and being shook by that strength and that power, and just leaving there knowing, okay, I'm okay, because it kind of connects you to your power source. And like gives you something. But again, that's something we talk about a lot, about the difference between sort of Black Christianity and what you experience, because I always went to church to get sort of pumped up for life and to go out there and keep my head up. And it's like, seems to me like so much of white evangelicalism is going to church to get something from God, like get what you're owed, like you're putting in your dues to get what you're owed eventually. And that's a way to do it.
So did you two kind of admit you're atheists kind of together? Like neither of you were, I guess, prior to the relationship.
Yes, no, that's correct.
I mean, we were atheists.
I would say I used to say I was agnostic.
Right, agnostic. Yeah, I was Christian. So we were. You're right. We became atheists together. That's crazy.
I was wondering, just because the previous like couples I've talked to, there's always been like one person becomes an atheist, and then they have to like talk the other person into it. And then you don't know, like, because the dynamics of a couple are definitely interesting, and you see like somebody going along and you never know, like, do they really believe, do they not? But it seems like you kind of took this journey together.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he knows he can't talk me into a damn thing, and I can't really talk either.
It seems yeah, I feel that, yeah.
Like, I need to independently come to, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we did both independently because, I didn't talk her into it.
And I think I was just being a coward. You know what I mean? Like, I know I was a fucking atheist. Yeah. Like, I knew I was an atheist, but it's just something about that label.
Yeah.
It's problematic.
There's something about the name atheist.
Is, because
it bothers people. I don't know.
It bothers me because I'm not, like, I don't get excited about Sam Harris. I just don't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't get excited.
Now I
probably shouldn't, yeah.
Like, it's just not like that. That's not my jam.
Right.
It's such a different time. Like, I recently read a Dan Brown book, and he had a reference to a lot of well-known atheists, and it's like every single person he mentioned, like, ooh, you've got problems. Like, it used to be the four horsemen, like, well-known atheists, like, they were just kind of rock stars. I wouldn't say we called them our gods. And now it's like, oh, they've done some bad stuff. And it's like, yeah, they're human beings. And then some people you're just like, yeah, I don't need to follow them. Yeah, I mean, that's the point. Like, we don't leave religion to become religious in a different way and have these gods. And some people do and some people don't.
Yes.
Right.
And that's part of the whole journey. But part of your show that I haven't talked about yet, I feel like I need to make sure that we get your nerd cred taken care of.
Oh.
So... as someone who's I'm always on the outskirts, like, I almost feel like I can't go to atheist conferences because I've never watched, like, the original Star Trek series. And I don't go to see every Marvel movie. But you had, as part of your show, the last episode, I think it was 17, you did some, like, trailer reviews. So is it a tough time as a nerd just because there's so many of these movies out? Like, it's got to be, like, a serious dent on the budget to go to a lot of, the first run movies.
Yes,
right.
It is, because they're non-negotiable.
Right.
Now so I say that, but there are some we can kind of slide on, like Ant-Man and Wasp. We still haven't seen that. We're waiting for that to be like $2.99 rental.
Right.
Instead of like right now you can only buy it.
There have been a lot, because I went to see Black Panther with my wife, and we're in Atlanta, so we got to see the scene where they were in the British Museum, which is actually the High Museum in Atlanta. It's the only time you really knew, because they film all those movies here.
Yeah.
Like, that you actually were in Atlanta. But I've skipped a bunch, and I haven't seen the latest Big Avengers movie and Deadpool 2, and it's just like, can I wait till it comes out on HBO or on streaming? Is it okay?
You totally can.
I don't think it's spoiled like it used to. Like, there's almost nothing 95% of people go see and tell you the entire plot.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, well, we went to go see Black Panther, like, opening weekend. So
and a couple times.
It was Brent and about 30 members of my black ass family.
Yeah.
And it's like all bought tickets together. So we were all together in this giant theater, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. There were just so many people there, and they're like African clothing. I mean, that was
it was cool.
That was an amazing experience.
That
was the way to watch Black Panther the first time, for sure.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
So awesome.
So as far as I have, what's great is I now have the AMC. I love AMC. It just is what it is. And I actually am doing their subscription service where you can see 3 movies for free a week. So that helps a lot because it's like $20 a month for 3 movies a week. And so we only have to end up paying for like Brent's ticket usually. So that helps.
And I remember the like movie pass people make a big deal.
Oh, they're like,
when we saw Black Panther, it was like there was a Sunday like 10 o'clock showing in the morning.
Holy shit.
And there were a bunch of people who must have skipped church to see that showing, and it was $5 and we
good for them.
Quoted, and the crowd was, you want to go see a movie in the theater now. Like, you want to go like a Star Wars movie, like opening weekend, just because the crowd's going to be into it. Yeah. And if you have to smuggle in a beer or two,
exactly.
Yeah. If you have to. Some of those places, of course, most of them sell beer, but I'm picky. I got to get what I want exactly. So
my like favorite aunt can smuggle in entire bottles of wine.
We were passing a bottle around at Black Panther.
An entire bottle of rosé was being passed around.
I might have to, next time there's a big movie, go check it out.
Yeah.
With you two. I was wondering, because it's so tough, because there's so many, there are a bunch of, like, every movie has Chris Pine in it, but other than that, it's like, Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel, DC, even though, I saw Wonder Woman, and because I have HBO, I've getting Justice League, so I see like 2-minute increments of it, and I'm like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
Where did they spend the $600 million it cost for that movie?
Yes, right?
Wow, yeah. Because Wonder Woman was phenomenal. That was a great fucking movie. But Justice League was like, what the fuck? You had one character and did great, and then you have all of them and you fucked it up.
Yeah.
I honestly think Suicide Squad's my favorite out of all of them. But I know everybody hates me for that. That's
a fucking hot take if I ever heard one.
That wasn't, another one I saw in like 5-minute increments on HBO over time, because that one was like, that was one where they admitted like they just like reshot 90% of it. Yeah. I mean, Solo too, although it's tough, these movies, because they have to, like Justice League, I think made $600 million worldwide and it did make a profit.
Yeah.
These movies are expensive as hell, and like Solo came out and it only made $300 million or whatever. Yeah. It's so crazy, movie numbers now. You think like movies I liked when I was in college, like Pulp Fiction, like I only made like $80 million, and now if if one of those big movies doesn't make $80 million in the first weekend, it's a bomb.
Yes.
Right.
But there's such an audience. Like there's always been the audience. There's just maybe it's the CGI has caught up.
Yeah.
But then there's the fine line of you got to get the acting's got to be it's got to be good enough.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is why I kind of take it. It feels some type of way when nerd culture, just sort of bombs a movie. They just are like, this is the worst thing ever. I hate this. And it's like,
and they ruin it.
Y'all, literally 10 years ago, we were getting no movies at all. And now we're being basically catered to by every studio.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to look at this with fresh eyes.
Yeah. Chill the fuck out. Like,
look at this with fresh eyes. Please.
And what about like all the reboots? Like, I feel like we've had 8 different Spider-Men in the last decade.
Oh God.
I mean, even if it's good, it's like, you just did another one recently, right?
Personally, I am done with Spider-Man. Yeah. Unless there's some like super gully Spider-Man series where he's just trash and he's like going through a really tough time, I don't want to see it. Like it needs to be like a Logan-esque type Spider-Man situation, because he's not interesting.
Right.
He's not interesting. He's a child.
Yeah.
He's a child.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel strongly about Spider-Man.
That it's edgy for these movies to be like rated R. Like Logan was rated R. I think Deadpool was rated R.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, they have to be like very hold the line at PG-13. Exactly. And what happens, at least my memory from seeing like Avengers and stuff, is like they create these like bad guys, but then they're just so easily disposable. Like this army comes from space, but they're killed easily in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, you push a button and just turns them all off.
And it's hard to care because everybody's got superpowers, so who really has the advantage over everybody? But it is kind of, it's kind of there.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Nikki. You said in the last episode you were angry at Christian pop music because it started sounding like real music.
Yes.
I mean, we already talked kind of about Christian culture stealing from mainstream, but what was this experience you had?
They are thieves. So I was I was on YouTube, and I don't know what I was watching, but another video just randomly started playing, and it was this band for King and Country, and it was this song called Run Wild. And it was so good. It was like kind of Imagine Dragons-ish, not like an actual great song, but that song, like when you're on a treadmill or you're like going for a long walk, that song comes on, you're just like feeling yourself. It sounded like that. And I was like, okay, what's this band? So I go to Google them, and I was so fucking dismayed that they were a Christian band, because it's like, I can't, now I have to listen to it. When I listen to it again and I listen to those lyrics, I'm like, oh, well, duh, girl. This is a fucking Christian song. Like, these lyrics are so clearly Christian, but I was just listening to that beat. But I just hate it because it's just thievery. It's thievery, and in my opinion, like, it's manipulation. Because it's that one thing of like, look at us, we're cool Christians. You know, you want to be a part of this. Like, we're not your stuffy grandmothers, Lutherans. We're like these cool new non-denominational. We can do CrossFit and like be keto type of Christians, and I refuse.
Oh yeah, the really, was it the pastor wearing the jeans? I mean, I had a friend bring me to a church. This is a very white church, but they had like the rock and roll band, and that like almost is a requirement now.
Yeah, exactly. Because you gotta
kind of stolen from the black church too. Because
well, but see, ours was like born out of like fucking pain,
right?
Like needing to like get rid of that shit. Right. And I feel like this is like, okay, we're gonna tell you to be anti-choice. We're gonna tell you to hate gay people.
Right.
We're gonna tell you, even though you're poor, to give us 10% every fucking month. But we got this great band.
Yeah, exactly.
This great band is here for you every Sunday.
We got an awesome band. You know, Jesus.
Feel this.
Yeah.
That's what you get in exchange for all of your fuck shit.
It's the emotional high, and they you know, it's like they always say, you can leave here with peace in your heart, and it's like, okay, yeah, because you get to, I mean, you go there and you just sing your heart out, and then you're like, okay, God, you got my life, right? You're gonna get this straight, right? Okay, cool. All right. And then you leave, and you're like, God's got it. He's going to fix it.
He's got it. God's already got it. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe for some people, the church is like their version of the comic book movie. They get entertained.
Yes.
Every week, and they're like, all right, I'll put money in there, even though I maybe don't have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and your pastor is like actually telling you to.
Right.
That actually that investment in church is going to give you so much more dividends than, say, a meal today.
Yeah, because they say you'll get 7 times what you put in, you know? Never happens.
It's like scientifically, maybe not proven, but that's all right. There's a lot of that out there. Okay, so you two you're in Florida.
Yes.
And, you know, big election coming up. Are there any, like, local or statewide candidates that kind of get you fired up? Is anybody actually talking to atheists in the state or, like, catching your values? Or are you just like, okay, blue or bust?
No, he's definitely Christian.
He's always Christian.
So Andrew Gillum, we're all really excited about. There's also, and I can't remember his name, there's a black man as well who's pretty progressive running for attorney general as well. And so we're really excited about those two candidates, or at least that candidate, the Andrew Gillum,
yeah, definitely.
who is like a breath of fucking fresh air.
He's awesome.
We're hoping that he can survive because there's some shit in the news.
Caught up in,
there's an FBI investigation. So, but hopefully we can sort of. I mean, he's still going to be. I swear, he's still going to be better than Ron DeSantis.
Anything could be better.
Ficus would be better than Ron DeSantis. Like seriously. Oh my God, he's the worst.
Yeah, he's awful. Yeah, he's just terrible.
He's the worst. So yeah, but the really, really big thing that's happening here in Florida that's going to be amazing if it passes, and I really hope it does, is Amendment 4, which will restore voting rights to felons and pretty much knock that off. So felons in the future can always vote. That's a big thing that we're all hoping and rooting for to pass.
Yeah, because that's just so clearly trying to get votes, you know, for the GOP. You know what I mean? It's like so clearly.
It's a voter suppression move all day, every day.
That's it. Voter suppression. That's the way.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially too because the way that you get it back is so, you know, it's just. You know, not clear. It's not transparent, and then they just fuck with you. They just fuck with you.
And Republicans don't. They don't get felonies. They get, you know, like George Bush getting a fucking warning for goddamn cocaine. Who the fuck gets that? Who gets a warning for cocaine?
Yeah,
George Bush. Yeah. I was thinking, like, because in the state of Georgia, we have Stacey Abrams, who could be the first black female governor.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And she's actually going to Pride, because Pride's happening in Atlanta this weekend. Nice. First governor, you know, someone running ever. And then we have Brian Kemp, who's actually the Secretary of State, who probably turned an election or two because we have the Windows like 2000 system that's so easily hackable. And he just like erased, and he's like trying to keep people out. I'm like, does people even notice that, like, why is this one party consistently trying to keep people from voting?
Yeah.
Is voting supposed to be like, aren't we the country of freedom? I mean, not really, only on one side. I know. Like, I know where we are, but it's okay.
And what's so terrible about that entire situation is it's not even so disrespectful that they're openly doing this. What's even more disrespectful is when all they have to do is give this flimsy ass excuse and their voters just take it and run with it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, no, we believe in the integrity of voting and we don't want anyone to steal the vote. Okay.
Yeah, cool. What he said.
Sounds good.
Close enough, huh?
It's like that girl
Ridiculous.
from the Big Bang Theory. She's like, I don't know, I'm a Republican. What do they say? What do they think?
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I think. So,
Good and good. Done and done. Yeah, it's bullshit. So yeah, that is what I'm really looking forward to. I mean, seeing a progressive Black governor of the state of Florida. It's just
we would need that. We need that.
Yeah,
it's needed it for a long time. But.
Exactly. I'm hoping he's able to pull some Obama numbers, mostly because Bill Nelson, who's running for Senate, is going to need it.
Yeah.
He's going to need as many people as possible to show up and just vote Democrat down the ticket because he's really not running a very energized campaign right now.
Right. And he's for Senate, he's going against Scott, right?
Rick Scott.
He's the worst.
Enemy of the worst.
Oh, he's a piece.
But I saw today actually a sort of progressive veterans organization released a giant ad buy with a bunch of commercials basically questioning his record on veterans because he always like wears that fucking Navy hat to let everyone know that's his like I'm in business, I'm in hurricane mode hat is his Navy hat. And so this big ad buy is kind of like, are you really supporting the veterans? And it sort of highlights how much his previous company stole money from TRICARE and all the bullshit that they did to veterans and the fact that he's continuing that process now as governor. So hopefully that moves some people.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's kind of sad that you think that like the party that's constantly basically attacking the people who are their biggest supporters are there.
Yes.
The Cruz Beto, race, and then of course Georgia, like to even consider that as a possibility that we get a Democratic governor will be great. The South used to be Democratic, but it was kind of Democratic the way the GOP is now. It's like it was kind of the same politics, just a different label.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And labels are lovely. And I did just mention this right before we got on, but of course I have to ask, do either of you have a joke? And if let me know if you have one to share.
Okay. So there was these 3 tomatoes walking down the street. A daddy tomato, a mommy tomato, and a baby tomato. The baby tomato started lagging behind. I'm just kidding. I don't know a fucking joke. That's in Pulp Fiction.
Catch up. That's come on.
I was like, he's going to do the Pulp Fiction thing.
Yeah.
That's what I do when people ask me jokes. I don't really.
You know what? Real talk. Like so we don't have any children. My nearest nephew lives in North Carolina and all of his nieces live in Massachusetts. So we're never around children.
No.
And so we never have jokes.
Yeah.
Because that's the funnel for jokes. It's school-aged children.
Because they're going to laugh.
Yes.
It's kind of the dad joke thing.
Exactly. See, we don't have any need for dad jokes.
Yeah. I know. And that's like
we just curse and tell dirty jokes.
Exactly. Yeah. Just like
dirty shit.
Like more.
We need a place child.
I'm gonna have to go into rehab because every episode I mention ReasonCon, and sadly ReasonCon is no longer and not going to happen this year. But I can still imagine that all of us atheists can get together and hang out.
Yes.
If we all were able to get together and hang out, do you have a song that you would do in karaoke? And would you do it as a duo, or do you have your own individual greatest hits?
Okay, we do have one song, right?
We would definitely do Dramarama, anything. And
then I would say also I Can Change.
Also Brandon Flowers. Okay, so 2 songs. So we have Dramarama, anything. I don't know why we love that song, but we do. Yeah. And also Brandon Flowers, his solo stuff. Yeah. He has a song called I Can Change. And we always sing it to each other because I think, Brent is trying to figure out the world and learn the world as a 30-something-year-old man. And that's scary and new, but he's forging ahead anyway. Yeah. And I'm trying to be more understanding of how this happens and just be a source of support for you, like while you're going through this. So
and
we always like sing
down.
that song to each other.
And
Exactly.
Life.
Exactly.
She's always so gung ho about like getting life done, like just get it done.
We gotta do this, and we gotta do this, and we gotta do this, and we gotta put this here and put that there and put that there, and we'll be good.
Yeah, and I'm like, you gotta slow down, stop. Like, you don't have to do everything perfect all the time. Like, come on, have fun.
As he says to a black woman, we just don't believe in that shit. We just don't.
Yeah.
Well, where do people find Apologetics? Where can they go to check your show out? Because I think after this they will.
Okay, cool. Right now we're on SoundCloud and Stitcher exclusively. We're working really hard to try to get on Audio Boom and get our podcast out to more.
Still like trying to figure out how we want to do that.
Yeah, and
where we want to go.
And I swear the iTunes doesn't like me. I swear to
we
God.
keep trying. We're trying to figure it out, but we're gonna get there. But right now, we're on Stitcher and we're on SoundCloud, Unapologetix. You can email us at unapologetix666@gmail.com. Brent, definitely name that email address.
I did, yeah. And it's Unapologetics with an X. So it's hard to, I always have to say that.
There's a lot of unapologetic podcasts already out there.
Yeah. There was one was like an alt-right podcast.
Yeah.
A teacher.
Yeah. From Florida.
With CS. It was like spelled out. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. So we were like, when that news blew of like, oh, there's a white supremacist working in Florida schools.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow. Oh, no one finds our podcast and thinks it's us.
And thinks it's it. Yeah.
Because they're gonna have a rude awakening.
One. That we know.
Exactly.
But,
well, Brent and Nikki, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been quite a blast.
Yeah.
The show ends when I'm out of beer, so that's the way it goes.
Yeah, exactly. It's about time.
Happens.
And then I don't have the energy you two have to go on for 3 hours.
Yeah. We are very energetic.
Yeah, we do.
But anyway, thank you so much. We love your show.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being on. It's been great.
Definitely.
Bye. Have a good Sunday. Enjoy football.
Yeah, get ready for that.
Welcome, futurists, cyberphiles, and the rest of you dateless wonders.
Live read. You may wonder where truth is in today's fraught political climate, but don't worry, it sure ain't in the skeptical community grifter subcategory. Recently, two distinguished haters of all things gender studies, Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay, published a fake scientific paper to prove that gender studies suck and totally didn't invite them to hang out with the cool kids when they grew up, and that was about it. It was believed as a groundbreaking takedown of, equality by some, and blasted as stupid, immature, and Project Veritas light by the rest. Well, they're at it again, and fellow centrists Helen Pluckrose, who has a minor in cultural Marxism, have decided to come together and use their superpowers for bad, and it is Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, or The Night That Two Hacks Met a Third, and they got some more fake papers published, and that means climate change isn't real. I mean, there's something called Grievance Studies, and it's bad, and luckily Corey Johnston is on the case. Sometimes you think to yourself, man, it would be a great guest and a great podcast show, and he did exactly that, so I didn't have to do it. So this week's Brainstorm podcast, he interviews HJ Hornbeck, who published a takedown of the trio's efforts. May Corey never have to live read the summary of a scientific paper again as long as he lives. If you want to support this show, be like Bobby, Hugh, Teody, Larry, Daryl, and the other Daryl, and go to patreon.com/Zachrilege, ZACHRILEGE. Follow me on Twitter, like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, and send all mail, guest ideas, whatever, recipes to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thank you to Nikki and Brent for being on. May the Force be another Spider-Man reboot.